No respite from the sellers at the start of the week. The Sensex and Nifty both off more than 1.6%. Sensex today extending its losses and dropping to a 28-month low in the first half hour of trade itself. Broader markets are being sold off. The government has approved the draft National Food Security Bill that seeks to give legal entitlement for cheaper food grains to 63.5% of the country's population. The bill is expected to be tabled in Parliament in the ongoing Parliament session. As the government works to bring the Lokpal note in the cabinet later today, a new proposal coming in, a separate investigation wing for Lokpal to probe corruption cases before handing it over to the CBI for a detailed investigation. Details coming right up. Hello and welcome to this Monday afternoon edition of Breaking News here on NDTV Profit. Next 30 minutes we'll focus on the markets, the sell-off therein, not just in equity markets here in India but also across Europe and Asia. Also look at the top corporate headlines. But before we start the bulletin, here's a reminder about how you can make money. 50,000 rupees every 2 hours by simply participating in a Search for India stock market hero. The 12 noon to 2 p.m. band has come to a close, but if you haven't participated, you still have another chance today. 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. band, that's the band you can participate in. For the last band, which is just shut, the winning stock, which gained the maximum in percentage terms, was TCS, 0.75% gains on that stock. And the correct answer for the question we'd asked you is option B. That's also on your screen right now. At 2:15 p.m., we'll name the hero of the stock market of that particular band. So stay tuned to hear if you are the winner of that particular band. But right now, coming up on your screen, 10 stocks which form a part of the next band, the 2 to 3:30 p.m. band. Out of these 10 stocks, you have to select one which you think will gain the maximum in percentage terms between now and 3:30 p.m. And you have to type hero, put a space and the stock number that corresponds with your stock selection. Remember, a little while later, we'll also bring to you second part of that contest because it's a two-leg contest. The second part will be a simple question with a multiple choice answer. If you've been watching NDTV Profit, answering both these two should be a cakewalk. Keep watching NDTV Profit and keep participating. No respite from selling today on the markets, 1.8% off on both the benchmark indices at this point in time, trading at the day's lowest points. The Nifty, the Sensex first, it's trading at 15,219. That's off 217 points, looking extremely weak, and a similar sort of picture on the Nifty as well, which right now is trading again almost at the day's lowest point, off 85 points at 4,568. Just a couple of points, about 10 points above the day's lowest point. The broader markets are selling off as well. Thereby, the advanced decline picture, it will come up on your screen right now, will be extremely weak, with declining stocks outnumbering the advances by a wide margin. Right now, just 8% of the stocks are advancing. The rest are all declining. Extreme sell-off. The NSE Volatility Index is packed up 5% at this point in time. Not a single space in terms of the sectoral space gaining right now that I can point out. There's a lot of sell-off in the PSU banking space. Bank Nifty is off more than 4%. Similar sort of cut on the Realty Index as well, with realty stocks today losing ground. Also looking weak today, infrastructure. What do I name? There's across the board sell-off, and a lot of that has also to do with negative cues that are coming in from across Asia. We'll come to one of the reasons why Asia is looking weak. Kospi, that market is off. We'll come to that in a bit, but Europe has also started off on a weak note today. The weak rupee, that's another reason that the markets are a little jittery. Rupees back above 53 levels today, though just at this point it's trading below the 53 to the dollar mark. Over the weekend, some important comments being made by CLSA that it's reduced its weightage on India, and it's also said that on the Sensex, we're perhaps likely to see levels of 11,000 or even 12,000. Pankaj Podar is joining in right now with a recap of what CLSA seems to believe where this Indian market is headed. Pankaj.
Well, if you would largely look, Chris Food, the strategist at CLSA, has downgraded India to a neutral from overweight. He was known one of the best bulls here in the Indian market, and finally he has actually turned slightly cautious on the Indian market. But CLSA believes that there is bright chances that about 5 to 6% could be the real number when the growth number actually comes out. So a lot of concerns expressed by the big bull Chris Woods. Finally, he's gone from an overweight to a neutral on India, with Sensex probably his target is around 11 to 12,000 for Sensex.
Thanks very much, Pankaj. So cautious, sure, governance issues, yes, we can see that, but valuations, what about that? If you do want to enter stocks right now, is this even the good time to enter stocks? We asked Sanjeev Prasad of Kotak Institutional Equities that question.
Well, you need to understand why the currency is where it is. That is more of a outcome of, I would say, some of the policies which have been adopted by the government of India over the last 2-3 years. It is reflecting of governance issues in India. The high fiscal deficit, high inflation, weak current account. So all those things are coming to the fore once again. We thought that some of these problems had been addressed. This problem is very, I would say, very much there in the 1990s. So we were assuming that some of these problems have been addressed by years of strong growth, which you saw in the middle part of the last decade. But of late, you have seen some of these issues coming back to the fore.
Aiming to provide food security to the poor, the government has approved the food bill, or the draft National Food Security Bill, that seeks to give legal entitlement for cheaper food grains to about 63% of the country's population. The cabinet, presided over by the Prime Minister, gave the green signal for the draft National Food Security Bill on Sunday after a brief discussion. Oini Tamoja Sinha is joining in with the details. Oini, last week the bill was deferred as Sharad Pawar raised questions about huge financial implications. How was that resolved or addressed?
The financial implications on the government are definitely going to be really huge. The government is already staring at high fiscal deficit numbers. There's already a resource constraint, as you have already mentioned. The economy, the overall economy is slowing down. There's a global slowdown which is already there. So definitely a huge financial burden for the government, because the bill, the Food Ministry's estimates for implementing the bill in its present form stands at anywhere between 1 to 1.5 lakh crore rupees per annum. So yes, overall a huge burden on the finances, but nonetheless a social sector reform at this point of time.
Thanks very much, Oinatham, for the details there. Now, the other big story of the day, the government seems to be racing ahead of time to bring the Lokpal bill in the winter session of the parliament. Sources have told us that the government is working overtime to complete the Lokpal note so that the cabinet meeting can take place this evening here in the national capital. Government proposes that there is a separate investigation wing for Lokpal based on feedback from all after the all-party meeting. Now, the Lokpal's investigation team will be completely separate from the CBI's investigation wing if the proposal is accepted. This cabinet note is being prepared between the Department of Personnel and Training and the Law Ministry. Sandeep Phukan is joining in right now with the latest. Good afternoon, Sandeep. Lots at stake. If the bill succeeds to keep its Monday date with the cabinet, it could be tabled in the parliament tomorrow?
It can actually keep pace with the developments. If they can meet this evening, then there is a possibility that it may be introduced tomorrow, or alternatively, if the cabinet note is finalized, then it needs to be circulated. Then there is a possibility that cabinet may meet actually tomorrow, and the bill may be placed day after. You may have a Lokpal investigation wing, and that's the latest that we have on this story.
Of course, the final clarity should emerge later this evening. Sandeep, thanks very much. We'll come back to you when you have more details on this front. Right now, here on Breaking News, a short break, but do stay with us. And here's what you can do in the break. You can make money, 50,000 rupees, by simply sending in 2 SMSs by participating in a search for India's stock market hero. Coming up on your screen, 10 stocks that form a part of the 2 to 3:30 p.m. band. Pick one which you think will gain the maximum in percentage terms between now and 3:30 p.m. Type in your answer and send it to 56388. A little later, the second part of the contest will also come up on your screen. Stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. Welcome back to breaking news here on NDTV Profit. Details of some important comments made by the Steel Secretary, Mr. P.K. Mishra, touching upon the government's buyback program. And while we are on that topic, let's also pull up the stocks as well. SAIL, NMDC, MOIL, NTPC. Raj is joining in right now. Good afternoon, Raj. Highlight the key comments and the importance of those comments made by Mr. P.K. Mishra today.
Well, Bianca, why this is important, because, if you remember, then last week only the NMDC chairman told us that they would not like to spend their money for any kind of buyback. Rather, they would invest that money for their expansion and any kind of mergers and acquisition. And they have around 21,500 crore rupees as cash reserves. So similarly for SAIL also, there are a lot of expansion plans that are going on. So it's not known that whether these public sector companies would like to go for any kind of buyback or not, or rather they will utilize this fund for their expansion. But nevertheless, we all know that how the government works, and these government companies are all run by the diktats of the government, though they are the Navratna and Maharatna companies. And so let's see how it actually pans out. But yes, it's a very important comment that the Steel Secretary has made today. Bianca.
Thanks very much for highlighting all those pointers for us, Raj. From steel, let's just talk about FMCG for a bit, and we'll pull up HUL. That stock today is gaining in a market that's tanking rather sharply. The world's leading FMCG player, Procter & Gamble, may have been a late entrant in the Indian market, but it's now set an ambitious target to take on India's largest consumer player and arch rival. HUL is part of P&G's strategy to triple its revenue by 2015. The company is planning to set up a manufacturing plant in Hyderabad. Shivani is joining in right now with all the details on this exclusive story. Shivani.
What we gather from our sources is that P&G plans to open a manufacturing facility in Hyderabad. Now, this plant will manufacture flagship products of P&G like Tide, Ariel and baby care product Pampers. The plant is expected to be operational by end of 2012, and it will entail an investment of around 400 crores as the company is also planning to ramp up production facility in Bhopal. This is part of P&G's plans to aggressively focus on the Indian market with a strategy called 234, which essentially means that the company aims to double its consumers, triple the per capita spending of consumers on P&G products, and quadruple its net sales. So we'll have to wait and watch how this pans out for the FMCG sector.
Thanks very much, Shivani. But that also means that it's going to mean a lot more options and choices for the consumers as well. Good to have that story. We're going to move on and take a quick health check of how equity markets across the world they're faring today. Europe has started off on a rather weak note right now. On the screen for you, all the European equity markets looking decently off at this point in time, and a lot of that has to do with weak signals that have been coming in from Asian markets this morning. Across the board, Asia was looking extremely weak, and right now you have most of the Asian markets, either they have shut for trade or they're trading in the last hour of trade. Across the board, Hang Seng is off more than 1%, Nikkei is off similar sort of losses there, 2% off on the Australian index. Both the Taiwanese markets, Straits Times, everything is looking weak. Particular mention of Kospi, that market dropped more than 5% today, but at close it is off 3.5%. One of the reasons that Kospi has been off sharply, it's political. Kim Jong-il, the North Korean leader who realized his family's dream of turning his starving country into minor nuclear weapons power, even as the isolated nation sank further into despotism. He died on Saturday of a heart attack. Now, the North had kept this particular news of his death rather secret for roughly 2 days, perhaps a sign that the leadership was struggling to position itself for what many believe could be a particularly perilous transition. A few hours after the announcement, the powerful Workers' Party and government officials, they released a joint statement suggesting Mr. Kim's chosen successor, his youngest son, was in charge. Now, Kim Jong-un is believed to be in his late 20s, and his youth and relative inexperience could make him vulnerable to past struggles. Therefore, rather politically unstable situation there, and the markets realizing that bit and tanking today. We'll keep a track of how equity markets across the world fare in the next couple of hours of trade, but that's a wrap on this edition of Breaking News. Thanks very much for watching.